Awesome. Wow. Just thumping beats. Let's go.
Solid
I was
intro.
watching that intro and looking at all of my outfits, and I wear this black t-shirt probably 8 days, 80% of my days. So it's surprising that Sisla found that much variation in my outfits. It's a fun one. Well, good morning, good evening, whatever the case may be, and welcome to Conversations with Jack. Thank you very much for Sisla and the OmniFlix team for hosting us. Really appreciate it. And today, I am very excited to welcome Tinderman Timmy. Hey, Timmy, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having me. Kind of cool being here because you and Sisla in particular were some of the first people that gave me like the time of the day when I came into Cosmos. So it's kind of awesome to be full circle.
Well, that's super cool. Well, we're stoked to have you as well. Just want to give a quick call out. I see some folks calling out GM in the chats. If you have questions or things that you'd like us to cover, please either drop it in the YouTube chat. Happy to take those questions there. Also, feel free to tweet me. I'll be trying to keep an eye on that during the show. So yeah, looking forward to your questions as well. Well, Timmy, we're very excited to have you. And I think one way I do like to kick this off is to hear what got people into crypto. Like, why are you in this random corner of the internet with us? What brought you here?
Yeah, it's such a good question because everyone has a different story, I feel like.
Yes.
I just got lucky. I've always been kind of an internet techie nerd, and I'm pretty sure I heard about Mt. Gox as a website for some reason or another. That led me to learn about Bitcoin, and then as a, edgy guy in their youth wanting to try out the Silk Road, which I learned about for nothing of actual value, just because I was like, I want to see if I can do this.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. I was a part of that era as well. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's weird. I never actually did much to get in trouble for with it. It was just that was the way to play with it at the time. And I realized this thing existed and I was like, here's what I can do with it. And so that kind of got me immediately interested at some level. And from there, just over the next couple years, I kind of got into trading of cryptocurrencies and investing. But throughout that whole arc, I could kind of feel the arc of where I am now growing, which was not thinking of them as an investment as much as the fundamental reason that they're here at all. The fact that Bitcoin has been a good investment for people. Why is that? What value does this core technology provide that is, revolutionary and world changing? So I spent a good couple years sort of chasing shit coins, trading this and that, trying to figure out what worked. And then maybe 4 years ago, started kind of settling more into the education side of it. For graduating college, I actually wrote a paper on blockchain that went on to be referenced by a bunch of stuff, which was shocking to me. I'd never written any academic paper before. And then slowly, I guess what got me here in particular in Cosmos.
While we're chatting, I'd love to see a link for that and share that with the folks watching.
I can do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. What got me in Cosmos in particular, though, was I don't know how I saw this because I didn't have Twitter at the time, but I saw CZ tweet that they were adding Binance without making them pay a fee, and I knew that was a first. And so I immediately was like, I'm going to go buy some Atom, then I'm going to look into what it does. And I looked into what it does, and I had this aha moment of okay, I am not a developer, so I don't know if the exact way this project's planning to do it is the way to go. But I know intrinsically that a multi-chain future is the only possible option. I'd been in crypto long enough that I saw scaling problems and all this sort of stuff. And so kind of just really settled in the concept of an interchain. And then when IBC launched and some of the chains in Cosmos started launching, I made the Tenderman Timmy Twitter account. And then everything just kind of grew from there. My main purpose in making that account was just to provide basic education for new people in a bull market. People who just didn't understand what a wallet even was, low level stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's such a different system, there's a lot of fundamental assumptions that are different, and the self-custody one is such a big one. I mean, this is something that I think we wanted to chat about a little bit later, but maybe it's kind of the thread that ties everything together here, which is, where are the users in crypto right now, and what's blocking adoption? And I think that this ease of use thing is a huge piece of it. If you look at friend.tech, they've got the NPC onboarding where you can do your mobile phone as one of the keys, and then the app, and a service provider potentially holds some of the other keys. And this allows you to get users onboarded and still give them a path to self-custody in the future, but provide a lot of the Web 2 niceties like account recovery and things like that. I think it's very interesting thing moving forward. Anyway, I just thought that's an interesting note about the custody and the education, because it is so key to bringing new users into the space.
Yeah, it's weird. I think one of the biggest shifts in thought I've had over the past like 3 years is kind of accepting the fact that I don't think the masses will ever adopt fully decentralized systems. It's just the average person doesn't have time for it. They don't have the drive. And it's just complicated. Like tech stuff it comes natural to some of us. Like I'm not a developer, but tech in general is fairly intuitive. And that's not how it is for everyone. So now where my attention's sort of been turned to is like, okay, how can we sort of deliver some of the benefits of blockchain, different in case-by-case basis, to the average person without requiring that they understand all of the nuances and complexity and go through learning about it the way you and I did, which is like probably digging through forums and asking people you happen to know on Twitter.
GitHub, for me.
Yeah, right.
Personally,
so
read a lot
of things holding back mass adoption, but I do think one of them is just like crypto's still feeling like a black box to an outsider, where do I even begin? Like everyone's heard the term wallet, I think even outside of Web3. I think people would be extremely surprised to learn that like most people don't know what it is. And most people in crypto who own tokens don't even really understand what a wallet is. They think their tokens are in the wallet, right?
Yeah.
So like that kind of fundamental misunderstanding, I think, no wonder it's hard for mass adoption to happen, because you take one look at this, and if you don't have a friend like me or you in your life personally, where do you even start?
Yeah, it's really confusing. I remember the first time somebody I read a bunch of code, and I was reading about hierarchical deterministic wallets, which is how all wallets in crypto work now. And I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. This is why my seed phrase is able to generate all those different addresses. And for years after that, I've just had so many conversations where even people who are deep in the industry belie a fundamental misunderstanding of some of those basic concepts when you're discussing like system architecture and things like that. You're like, wow. The longer you start doing it, the more and more you realize how complex and how many different pieces there are. And, I think it gives me a lot more empathy for other developers making those mistakes and not kind of seeing the right paths forward on some things. It's a lot of pieces.
I mean, like, I thought I understood blockchain until I started to try and actually build stuff on it this past year with Spark and Interchain, right? Like, I felt confident. I was like, I get how blockchains work more or less. Maybe some of the nuances escape me, but like, no, the deeper you dive, the more there is.
Yeah, it's it is. So I think this is a good time to talk about a little bit more about your sort of like overall work. So you've got a lot of irons in the fire and all kind of focused around education. And your company is called Spark, right?
Yeah. So we kind of colloquially call it like the Spark family. It's kind of a collection of loosely associated projects or endeavors. So like we run a validator, Whisper nodes we've actually recently merged with. We have Spark IBC, which is a platform. We have the link on screen here now, which we can talk about a little. Interchain Info, which has been our main focus for the past like half a year or so. And then actually a couple other things sort of cooking as well. Something we're not, I guess here's our official announcement. We're going to be launching something called Spark Studios. So 3D work, graphic and UI design, logo design, video work. You'll be able to hit us up and contract out help for that kind of stuff, and kind of some other stuff like that, where we just want to kind of become a helpful player all around in the interchain.
So yeah, like dive in a little bit deeper on some of those individual projects.
I'll pick Interchain Info if you don't have a preference, because
let's start with Spark IBC
Okay.
and come back to Interchain Info. Yeah,
cool. So Spark IBC, it started as a very small thing. It was something I thought was within my like power to do as someone who didn't have a team or budget or whatever, but might be kind of useful. And the idea there was, I was noticing as Cosmos was growing that even though we talk about being interchain and cross-chain, multi-chain, projects that are like truly chain agnostic and don't have a home-based chain kind of struggled to find funding and support, because what community pool or grants program, right? It makes sense.
I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah, but it also makes sense. I don't think that's to blame any community or grants program for keeping their token holders at heart. So the idea with Spark was like, here's a neutral platform where people could just contribute out of the goodness of their heart to chain agnostic things they want to see funding. It has changed a bit. It hasn't been our focus for a while. It's getting a big update here soon. I definitely built it out, A, in a bull market, B, maybe over estimating people's kindness and generosity. So it was purely like a charity thing where you would just contribute to stuff you like. But our new model that's going to be coming in the next couple months is campaigns can be run in one of three ways. One would be pure charity, funding like public goods you just want to throw some support at. Patreon type things. So for a content creator, currently we have a campaign for Terra Spaces, for example. You could divert like a portion of your staking rewards to go to that campaign, that person every month. And then third is a typical sort of launchpad Kickstarter type thing where you'll be able to invest in projects, but also get something in return for doing so. So that's the Spark IBC platform. It's sort of a chain agnostic funding platform.
I mean, that seems to be something where, like, just looking at it right now, you've got a lot of work to do there, which is exciting, and you'll be shipping features there for a while.
Yeah. We only in the past like 3 or 4 weeks have we really been able to turn a lot of our like internal focus back towards Spark IBC. For the past like few months, the focus was on getting Interchain Info to where it is now. Our team is still very small, so got to tackle things one at a time.
Yeah, I totally know how that goes. Yeah, this reminds me of DAO Up a little bit, but like different. You remember DAO Up?
I do.
That was a moment in time.
I think there might have been some cross inspiration or something, because I do remember DAO Up. I remember thinking like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of, similar to our Spark goals, just more specific to DAOs.
Yeah, it's funny that all of this great tooling and work has gone into these launchpad platforms, which is fantastic. And I think that, what you're building over there with Spark IBC is awesome. But people seem to just want to mint some shitcoin and then just pump the shit out of it. And that's all they want to do, instead of like building more sustainable economies. Anyway, on the sustainable economies piece, would love to hear a little bit more about Interchain Info, which is the sort of like flagship product for Spark.
Yeah. So Interchain Info is, I've never been more confident or passionate about anything in my life, to be honest. Because I'm not a crazy developer. I'm not a crazy trader. I'm not, I think where my strengths lie is that I have a deep understanding of crypto while being able to kind of keep some of the perspective of an average person. So that's why I've leaned so heavily into education, because I can take a really complex topic, give me enough times practicing it, take a really complex topic and break it down for someone in like an understandable way. I've had several like coworkers, family members, friends, whatever, outside of crypto tell me after I did my little crypto pitch that they're like, a lot of people have tried to explain crypto to me before. It just sounded like a scam, but like the way you put it makes sense. And And so tapping into that, I think Interchain Info doesn't look too exciting on the surface, mainly because, like you said, there's not a token you can invest in. It's mainly off-chain. But I think something like this has the potential to be equivalent to like Google and Wikipedia in their effect on the way people interact with the internet. So like nobody thinks of Wikipedia as a crazy investment thing that made people rich. In fact, they still beg for donations all the time. Google did their own. Google's very unique, obviously, but think about how fundamentally different, not just the internet, but your perception of it would be without those two platforms. So we're kind of trying to provide that level of intuitive cohesion for the Interchain. Where on Interchain Info, you can look up the name of any project, piece of tech, validator, whatever. There'll be a wiki page for them that's open to edit by all. If there isn't one, submit a page, add it like it's an open wiki. And that ties into other parts of the site, such as the resource hub, where let's say you look up Strangelove on the index. You get a kind of brief overview of or whatever info has been put there. But then also, if there are any videos, articles, Twitter spaces, etc., in our resource hub related to Strangelove, they'd be listed below. And then the third part of our site, which is being built right now and is definitely going to be the actual anchor to it all, is the only on-chain part. And that's the dashboard. So after you've found new things, learned about them, researched, rather than opening up 5 tabs to go interact with 5 different dApps on who knows how many different chains, you'll just be able to come to your custom Interchain Info dashboard, add, let's say, the Similier module, the Rango module for moving funds around, Osmosis, and like access all that stuff from one place. And this is where Spark points, which you get from donating in the Spark system, are going to start to finally have a little bit of use case. So the more Spark points you have, the more dashboard layouts you'd be able to save and switch between. So you might have an NFT layout, a DeFi layout, etc. That was long-winded, but there's just so much.
I mean, that's like a cool mechanic of interactions between the different products there. I like that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think Interchain Info is interesting because I don't blame anybody who doesn't get super excited over it, because right now the only people that know about it are not really the target audience. I mean, they are in that we want Interchain Info to be helpful for everyone. Even if you're a veteran, you could go use it to look up detailed info on some project. But the perspective that I think people, or the type of people that will have the perspective we're aiming at, will start to come with the next bull run. People who are interested in crypto but don't really know how to explore it. And suddenly there's this cohesive, all-in-one sort of easy way to do so. And then that's where you get your return on investment. So like, unlike buying a shitcoin, which we don't offer, if anyone wants to contribute to Interchain Info through Spark and like fund us, do keep in mind the sort of indirect benefit, where whatever investments you do have, whatever coins you hold, stake, communities you care about, we're trying to help them out. We're trying to bring them new users, make them more accessible, more approachable, and more visible. So, yeah.
I mean, this is all about adoption. And I think we were talking earlier in the call about sort of like, where are the users? And I think that this is already now a theme on Conversations with Jack, is the where are the users conversation. Shocker, it's a bear market and we're talking about where are the users. But yeah, I'm interested to hear from your perspective, sort of this current issue that we're having around usage for these products. What are some of the causes, and sort of like what can we do to help alleviate some of those? And I have my own feelings on some of this as well. So like, yeah, interested to hear you.
I'd love to hear your feelings, actually. But yeah. I can go first if you'd like, but I'm interested.
I mean, I'm happy to go first. Yeah, I think that there's a large number of factors. I think that, you know, crypto adoption is kind of inherently cyclical. This idea of non-government money is scary. It's a big, hairy idea. And what we've seen over and over again is number go way up, tons of people come in, water draws back, a bunch of people leave. But if you compare the last bear market to this bear market, there's more people here. And like we keep a huge chunk of those people every time this adoption cycle happens. And it's like slowly spreading more things. Now, I think in this cycle, I've seen this more from a personal level than previous cycles, but it sucks to lose a lot of money. It's not to say I haven't lost money in previous cycles, but more in this one.
See, that's the one place I think I'm different from everyone else this cycle.
Yeah.
I used to leverage trade, which I don't anymore. So this cycle has not hurt me as much as
I'm just a buy and hold person. But if you look at the
I should have been forever. I'd be rich.
If you look at the valuations at the top of the market, I'm not hurting, but like, it's not like 20x what it used to be. So yeah, I think that people don't like that. And I think that most of the traditional financial markets, there's so many guardrails and safety rails around it. People have gotten used to a particular way of investing. And I think that, that is like inherently not how investing works. Investing has risk. And those safety rails and guardrails are used to keep the majority of the population out of financial markets and to ensure that insiders continue to benefit. But when you have truly unregulated markets, there are pathologies in them that governments have done a lot of work, good work, I think, to stamp out in traditional financial markets. Now, I'm a libertarian saying the government did good things, but I think on the whole, like, we want these more unregulated markets. Like, they're important. Because of the distortion that's caused by a lot of government intervention. But the long story short there is like people are extremely down on crypto right now because number go down. Because the last cycle was larger than the previous one, government also down on crypto, and the US government in particular, I think under the Biden administration, at some point last year decided that crypto was capital E evil and capital B bad, and they turned it into a culture war topic, and they're weaponizing the US government against our industry. And like, those are slightly inflammatory statements, but they're accurate. I mean, look at where we're at right now. It's not a great spot with respect to the government. We just saw the Tornado Cash developer get put in jail for writing open source software, which that's a battle we need to fight.
The Ripple news has been
good-ish, but
I mean,
there is
how you look at that whole thing.
I think that that's one front in the broader battle that we're in right now, and what Coinbase is fighting with the SEC, and like, there's a lot of fronts in this battle, and it's kind of hard to keep up. So I think that that cultural thing that we're dealing with is new. I can speak to my own personal experience, people that I knew that know from like my normie life react very differently to me when I talk about crypto versus a few years ago. And I have some people I know who actively disdain what I do, and that has been funny to watch. Most of those folks are on the far left of the political spectrum. And they're not really known for tolerance and political views anyway. So that's not surprising to me, but it is disappointing and sad. So I think that like high level backdrop is really important when we talk about the lack of users. Because I think as crypto, it is like in our nature to like blame ourselves and say, hey, wallet onboarding sucks. No one understands seed phrases. Self-custody is hard. These networks are complex. It's bad user experience. And all of those things are true. And I think that there's a lot we can and should be doing. And like, Strangelove itself is doing, and Interchain Info is doing to like help ease some of those problems. And people are working hard on it. But I think it's really important to keep in mind like the high level macro picture. The other piece of the macro picture is the end of easy money and higher interest rates, which is another reason why number go down. It's a risk off trade. So Yeah, I think that like there's a lot of macro stuff this cycle that's a little bit different from previous cycles, and it's making it feel extra scary for people. In combination with some of the UX things. But I think that we're seeing with some of these NPC solutions, Solana Pay, Jordan, who used to work at Tendermint with me on the front end JavaScript stuff, is the Solana Pay lead. They just signed a deal with Shopify to provide settlement on Solana, which is huge. That's Shopify settles some massive chunk of e-commerce. So I think that we're doing a lot of the right things and helping ease those user experiences. And when users come back, what they're going to find is a completely different industry. And I think that that's really exciting.
Jack, I'm just curious. Do you ever like pay for stuff in crypto often? I know most websites don't allow it, but it's just funny with all these fast, cheap, Litecoin's been around forever. XLM, Ripple. Now we have Solana, Avalanche, whatever. I actually buy stuff directly.
Day-to-day, no, I do not.
Okay,
we pay a lot of people in crypto. We do.
All I was going to say is I use not quite a few, but enough websites where one of the options will be a credit card, PayPal, crypto. It's always Bitcoin that I pay in every time. It's never one of these faster, cheaper networks, and I'm never upset with the fees or the speed. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bitcoin. The things like Bitcoin brought you in, Bitcoin brought me in, and the things that are wonderful about that community is they really are focused on the revolution in its own way. And they have done a lot of the harder work on merchant adoption that I think has been ignored by the Ethereum communities. Not ignored. There's obviously projects
prioritized less,
but it's not the same level of energy within the community behind the merchant adoption push. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Solana uniquely also has that in their culture in a way where Cosmos doesn't either. But yeah, it's interesting.
So anyways, I guess my thoughts on where the users are, I guess I have two right now. Being through a couple cycles, previously it's felt like the cycles were like bull. It was like, oh wait, maybe there's something to this crypto stuff. Then bear was, no, wait, no, they were right. It's worth nothing. Oh wait, maybe there's something to this crypto stuff. But in the last cycle, it felt different. The last cycle was dominated by shitcoin scams and NFT projects, such that I've heard no one else say this, but I truly think it's having a lasting effect on the world's perception of crypto. Like, even for people that aren't plugged into Web3 and like actively pay attention to this stuff, now Web3 got big enough where those types of people have probably at least seen one or two things on CNN or MSNBC or whatever talking about a big scam or a big. So the fact that crypto got bigger, but the last cycle was somewhat dominated by like dog coins and NFT collections that went to insane prices and are now worth nothing. I think that's having a lasting effect on people who previously were hyped in the last bull cycle because they were like, this technology is crazy, it's going to change the world. Last bull cycle, if you just look at raw number of users, I would argue maybe a majority of them didn't have that attitude. They were there for a quick buck, and so as soon as bear hit, they didn't think twice about coming back.
I mean, I would agree with you. I do think that the level of, but people, the one reason I've resisted this narrative is because people fucking said this in 2017 too.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was the exact same thing, but the technology was even shittier. Like it was like, it wasn't even NFTs. It was like the most zero effort ERC20s that anyone has ever seen.
Remember the crypto kitties? We had those.
Well, that was the only NFT. Yeah. I still have some crypto kitties sitting in a MetaMask wallet somewhere. I have no idea.
Those are worth something, I assume.
Are they? I'm sure they aren't. I think they did. They oversupplied. They went to supply death very quickly. Yeah, I mean, you're minting an unlimited digital collectible that seemingly has endless demand. Better make hay while the sun shines. So they printed a fuck ton of those, raised the money, and then did Dapper Labs, which is a shitty Tendermint variant blockchain specializing in NFTs. They've got NFT NBA Top Shot over there, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're like they're one of the foundational NFT companies, but never really made a huge splash in the last cycle in the way that I think people wanted them to. Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. There is more of a understanding around the scams in this space. And I mean, this is my comments around sort of like unregulated markets. You know, there are pathologies to these things. I was just reading this book on the opium wars in China back in the 1830s, and like hearing about the spread of the first like truly global drug market was kind of fascinating, and a nice window into some historical unregulated markets in an interesting way. And I think that,
and a look into the psychology that comes along with those kind of markets, because people are the same at that level of like base psychology. Yeah,
they are. And I think that it's easy to forget that.
I will say too, the other reason I think this bear is particularly a bit sticky, and I get called a futter a lot, so I don't know, people are tired of hearing me say this, but I think currently CZ's suite of products, Justin Sun's suite of products, and Tether are all collapsing. And that is making it very hard for anything to economically thrive right now.
But like, well, I mean, okay, so there's a few things there. That's highly related to the regulatory crackdown.
Yeah, well, that's why it came to mind when you were saying, like, we're in an unregulated market, and here's one of the...
Yeah, I mean, but like Tether's supply has kept going up, which is bizarre to me.
Tether's supply? Well, yeah, because they just print it out of thin air when Justin or CZ needs money. And then that's why the USDC market cap is dropping off a cliff, because Tether prints Tether out of thin air. These exchanges swap it for USDC. They cash it out for real money. So USDC is going to zero if someone doesn't, I think.
I mean, it is just a really, I've heard a lot of rumors about Tether, but I
definitely
you
not financially.
Look at Tether, like it's some shady multi-sig setup where they're manually minting it. It's clearly a wildcat bank. Like,
I think the only thing is it might be the scam that is so big it becomes legitimate. I think it's a scam full and through. I think it's fraudulent as hell. It could nuke the crypto market at any moment. I also think it is possible they get too big to fail.
I think that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. But
because what's backing the real US dollar? Wait, what's backing the real US dollar, right? Faith in our government, which people don't have anymore.
Yeah. But if you want to talk about real, actual merchant adoption, Tether's done more for that than anyone else, and so is Tron.
Yeah.
They have an entire, like, quarter of the world where it's an actual medium of exchange, which is fucking crazy pants.
They have their own, people don't even know they have their own chain, right? Omni, whatever they call it.
They've got their own chain, they've got their own ATMs, they've got their own merchant adoption all over Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Turkey.
Did you see the picture that got posted yesterday, I think, of one of their energy facilities? It's just like a bunch of shipping containers that look like they've been put together and painted the Tether green. And apparently it's where they harvest a bunch of energy from some renewable resource and farm Bitcoin with it.
Sure.
Yeah, because mining Bitcoin is very profitable right now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Yeah, it's really hard to know. But I guess, like, back to the regulatory crackdown piece, like, the government is coming down hard on Binance right now. Capital B bad, capital E evil crypto that the Democrats see. Like, what Republicans can agree with is, oh, that looks like a shady China bank in Binance and Tether, and they're doing shady things that we don't like. And I think that this is one area where the Republicans, the Democrats have been able to agree, like, those are clearly the bad actors. We need to go after them. And I think that what we're seeing is the public results of a very, very brutal behind-the-scenes fight.
Yeah. Yes. Not like, for this podcast, but for your own amusement.
Yeah.
You go.
A lot of people have left Binance lately. There has been an unbelievable amount of churn. And I think that folks have seen
well, no one can withdraw right now. That's how bad it's been.
Yeah, people have like seen the announcements about this. But, we interact with Binance. Like, they're a participant in some of these markets. They, they have a Cosmos chain that they built.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I've had ongoing conversations with various folks there. That is an organization that has always had a lot of turnover, but the level of turnover over the last 6 months has been like nothing I've ever seen. People come in, they're there for a couple of weeks, and then they're gone. And it's just like, it's wild. Anyway, sorry, Timmy, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, not for this podcast, for your own enjoyment. The whole Tether thing gets really interesting just for fun if you start to dig into it. Like, do you know who their CEO and founder is? It's like a made-up person with a crazy name, and if you Google him, you get all this. It just becomes a rabbit hole. Like, Jean-Louis de Vanderveld is his name, and like, if you look up that family name, it comes from like royalty, but no, it's funny.
Yeah. I've
you
talked
look like
to
you
a
have something
lot
to
of
say.
people who have done a lot of digging on that, and I've heard some crazy theories on Tether. It is
fascinating.
One of those things where the truth is likely to be stranger than fiction.
Yes.
And
yes.
we're not going to know until it all comes out in public, and then it's going to be this huge thing where people are like, wait, that was worth hundreds of billions of dollars? And they were using the money for what? It's going to be, I mean, there are rumors that Tether is like owned by different intelligence services.
Yeah, I've heard every range of theories.
Just like wild stuff. And you're like, yeah, really? And then you have a long conversation with somebody about this, and people are like, oh, yeah. And then they give you like deep detail, and you go look it up, and you're like, this corroborates. And you're like, maybe they are.
My favorite one, not as in this is the one I believe, but just most entertaining, is that Tether is actually a ploy by the US government that is what is going to finally get rid of cash, because it's going to collapse in a major, spectacular, crazy way that they planned. And that will be part of what triggers the government saying, no more cash, RCBDC only. Look at Tether. We can't let it happen again.
Yeah.
It's stranger. It could. Yeah. Who knows? It's crazy. Real quick, Jack, I want to pick your brain on one thing. I know we're probably running up against time here.
Oh, we've got another 15 minutes if we need.
Oh, okay, cool. I was under the impression this was 30 actually.
Yeah, so I don't have any. Yeah, I mean, I block the whole hour generally. Most of the episodes, like if you look historically, some of them end around 30, 35 minutes. Some of them go more like 40, 45. But I like to have a little bit of variability in episode length. I think when I first started, I was trying to keep it at a hard 30, but it's just hard to do that. It's more fun to do 30 to 45 generally. And the conversations will naturally wrap when they wrap.
Yep.
And I think people kind of have an idea that like right around 30, they're like, okay, we need to start thinking towards the end of this. And but yeah, I've got time for a couple more questions. Yeah,
my only question, really very broad and more of a pick your brain than a specific question, but knowing our big picture goal at Spark and Interchain, which is simply to just make it more accessible and easy, whether it's for the end user exploring stuff or a project coming to us and saying, hey, how do we like get our name out there more, communicate what we're doing, whatever, directly tied in with the conversation of where are the users. Very big picture, you can answer broad or just like whatever, but how do you think we can be most helpful? Like the position that we, particularly Interchain Info, are trying to put ourselves in. We have a ton of stuff I haven't talked about that are on our to-do list, from like hand-holdy tutorials for brand new people that don't even know where to start. But like in general, what do you think someone in our position can do to truly help with making the Interchain accessible?
That's a great question. You're tackling it from a lot of different fronts.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. I think that's definitely a huge way to do it. Another way to do it is to sort of narrow down on one of those fronts and to try to attack them more individually. But, I don't really have a great answer for this.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question.
Yeah.
And like, this is something that I think folks have a little bit of trouble understanding my perspective on this. So like, I'll just share my perspective on this.
Yeah.
I am not good at selling or converting new users into crypto. I am really good at selling and converting developers into building systems on top of the stuff we build. And I have never viewed my job as bringing in end users. I have always viewed my job as bringing in developers who are good at bringing in end users.
I like
And
that.
yeah, and like, you know, that is hard when a lot of people think we have this infrastructure glut, and when the common criticism of Cosmos developers is all they want to do is build infrastructure. They don't want to build apps. And like, look, my expertise is not building apps. I'm one of the better developer tooling experts in the world, and like, that's been a huge part of why Cosmos has been successful. Is we've built some of the best developer tools, and we've built a bunch of sticky stuff. And like, I'm good at that. So I think that like, what people should do is what they're good at. Timmy, you're good at marketing, and you're good at like bringing people in and creating community. And you've built a platform to help grow that and make that bigger. And we need to just keep doing those things. And the ecosystems that are successful are the ones that are going to attract people who are interested in all of the key pieces around adoption. And like, that's just the way of it. Crypto, we've talked about on this show how it's this like huge mental leap for a lot of people. And you talk about the conversations you have one-on-one with people. That is the largest vector for crypto adoption.
It is.
Full stop.
Which is almost the answer to our question, right? Of where are the users?
It's the only way it's going to happen is people have to go out there and have these conversations.
Yeah.
And like, again, this is this thing with these cycles. The people who stay are the people who have conversations like me and Timmy, where we talk about the values behind it. You can talk about the history of the cypherpunk movement, why privacy is important, why cash is important, why self-sovereignty is important, why self-custody is important. And the people who believe that are the ones who stay. And then during the bear markets, those are the only people converting new people, because all of the people who are like, buy my bags, they're gone. And then we get into a bull market, and the vast majority of people who get converted are converted by people who are saying, buy my bags. And like,
what an experience that turns out to be every time.
Look, a bunch of those people end up staying. I have a really good friend who got into Terra back in 2019. And I was like, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not into it, but like, numbers gonna go way up. People love it. Like, the Korean founder is fantastic. Like, this is a good bet if you want to do it. So anyway, he rode that whole thing and, went to zero with it too. And his reaction after UST went to zero was fascinating to me. I was on a call with him the next day, and what he told me is, the world needs decentralized money now more than ever. Doe is right. And I still believe in the mission. And like, those are the people who stay and make an impact. And this guy works for Strangelove part-time now. So like, it's like, it is a slow process. It happens in these waves, and there's these predictable emotions that come with that. But like, we have to keep pushing forward. And I think that's the key thing about adoption.
Beautifully put. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think, actually, the only thing I'll add is the only bit of criticism we've gotten any of this is something we've also been complimented for, which you brought up, is that we're attacking this from many different angles. We have a lot of things in the oven. But one of the things I will give myself credit for, similar to like what you just described about yourself, is I'm very aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not.
Yeah.
So while it might seem like Spark has a million things going on, there are parts of it that I've entrusted to people who know better than me. For example, our validation arm, I weigh in on governance sometimes. Other than that, I'm not the DevOps guy. Like, that's not my forte. The Spark Studio thing I mentioned earlier, that's not going to be further splitting my time between things. The former designer at Ignite is actually heading that up for us, and we have a couple other
Nas?
Anzor. Or no,
Okay,
Anzor.
cool. Anzor, yeah.
Yep. I think he was like one of the designers. Or no, not Ignite. Ignite. Emerus. They built Emerus, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So just like really resonated what you said, where like I know where my strengths are. I focus on those ones, and then I find people who are better than me in other areas and, task them with that.
I will say, as an entrepreneur who has done the do way too many things thing for a long time, some of the best business advice I've gotten is to focus a little bit more. We recently did a focusing round at Strangelove, cut some products that weren't working. It's a much nicer business when you have fewer things to do, and it counterintuitively you actually end up getting more done. So I would be that is the team focus thing. So I think it's a good way to do stuff. Well, on that note, Timmy, I think that's a good time to wrap. Shill your bags. Where can people find you? What do you want people to do?
Interchaininfo.zone. If you are an investor and a user, whatever projects you're most passionate about, keep their index page up to date. It's like a Wikipedia. Everyone can update them. If you are a builder or running a project yourself, make sure you have a page in our index first off. Make sure it's kept up to date. And really just open lines of communication everywhere. We are 100% building everything we're doing for the community. So whether it's my DMs on Twitter @TendermintTimmy, or on our Discord, or directly to @Interchain Info or @SparkIBC, any questions people have, any suggestions, feedback, criticism, we're more than grateful to get all that stuff. We want to see how people are using the platform, how they want to use it, things we might need to add. And just in general, get ahead of it. I'm not going to stop until Interchain is the front page of the Interchain in a way. It's the default. I want it to be when people open a new tab, that's your default tab. For the diehard internet people, right? So
Pramod wants OmniFlix NFTs. So there's a feature request for you.
Yes, actually, beautiful. Yeah, someone mentioned that in the that's a separate idea. Yes. So there's a lot of things we can do. Yeah. There's so much. Someone earlier in the chat mentioned integrating StreamPay into Spark type stuff. And then this is, Oh, yep. There we go. So there's a bunch we can do. Let us know what you guys want to see for all of our products, everything we've talked about. But Interchain Info is the one that I think can make a really big, genuine difference in all of Web3 long term. So help us make that as great as possible. Help us get your name out there if you have a project by putting info in there. And if you're just an investor, a community member, it's an open wiki. You can do that as well. If you make videos, articles, post those to the resource hub. That's all I got. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you, Jack.
Get in there, check out Interchain Info. Timmy, thank you very much for joining us today. Sisla, thank you very much for producing. And I believe we will see you next week. Sisla, do we have a guest for next week yet? Isn't it who I think it is? Yeah. Next week, we're going to be talking to Sanjeev from the Leap team about Leap Wallet. And this theme on adoption and usability will continue until morale improves. See you guys next week. Thank you very much.
Love it. Thank you, Jack. Thanks, everyone.